Hey, what's going on guys, this is AndrewChicken and welcome back to another video. Last week I covered the top 5 best main supports in Paladins, so now let's cover the more niche support subclass, off supports. Off supports are the supports who are more focused on helping the team get kills and providing great utility to the team, while also doing a bit of healing on the side. Off supports should always be paired with another support so that the team doesn't lack healing. However, they can be quite good with the right team comp. Now, before we get started, I need to go over a few disclaimers. First of all, while there are some absolutely amazing dual support combos, as you'll see when we get to the top spots, many off supports are actually not super common in the meta at the moment. While I will be ranking off support builds against each other, when stacking them up against the meta champions in my other top 5 lists, some of them aren't as dominant in the overall meta. So, keep that in mind while watching this list, especially for the lower rankings. Next, this list is from a keyboard and mouse perspective. The support meta in this game can be a bit different depending on your input type, since controller players favor fast-firing hit scans, while keyboard and mouse players can squeeze every ounce of value out of projectiles. While I doubt this list will look strange from a controller perspective, I still want to put this disclaimer here just in case. Also, it's very important for me to iterate that this list is just my opinion. You shouldn't take it as gospel, and if your opinion differs, that is absolutely fine. Many off supports are good if you take the time to master them, so if you find someone who is not on this list to be fun and powerful, that's fantastic. Make sure to let me know who you think are the strongest off supports in the comments section down below. Just don't forget to keep the discussion respectful. But if this is just my opinion, then why does my opinion matter? Well, I'm a seasoned veteran at this game with far too many hours, and I've reached Masters in 3 separate seasons. I've seen just about everything this game has to offer, and my abundance of experience has guided the placements on this list. I'm not a perfect player, but I think it's safe to say I know a thing or two about this game. And finally, if you're watching this in the future, this list may be outdated. This list is from Season 5 or 2022. If you're in a different season or a different year, then take these placements with a grain of salt. This is reflective of the meta at the time of writing, not necessarily of the meta in the future. But with all those hefty disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and get straight into the video. Number 5. Pip. In the number 5 spot we have the random fox with godlike powers, Pip. I like to think of Pip as the AoE version of Buck. With Catalyst, he has an AoE slow that grants bonus damage, just like Ensnare. He has an AoE self-heal, an AoE weapon, and a jump with multiple charges. The only real difference is his ultimate, which turns people into chickens instead of making his weapon shoot faster, but more on that later. So what makes Pip a good off support? Well, like I said before, he basically has the AoE version of Ensnare. With Catalyst, he earns 30% increased damage on his weapon shots against anyone hit by his explosive flask for 4 seconds. This lets him achieve 780 damage per second, which is roughly on par with flanks such as Maeve and Eevee. And of course, the slow makes the enemies really easy to hit, which is really helpful. However, another way Pip is similar to Buck is with his Lifesteal card. Acumen grants up to 50% lifesteal against enemies who are hit by Explosive Flask, and it's bugged to not have diminishing returns with other sources of lifesteal. Basically, Pip can stack Acumen with Life Rip 3 and gain up to 80% lifesteal against targets he hits, which results in some nasty self-healing when combined with his healing potion. And, unlike Buck, Pip's healing potion gives all of the healing instantly. Because it's a burst heal, it's much more reliable than Buck's recovery, and it can heal other people. That's not too surprising though, because it is Pip's job to be a healer after all. Pip's movement ability is also pretty solid. He can cover some serious distance and also make it up to high ledges with his weightless. There's not much to say about it other than to be careful with where you jump when you're around the edge of the map. And of course, Pip's ultimate is a classic. In fact, Evil Mojo is actually what the development team is named after. Pip fires a big AoE bomb that turns anyone it touches into defenseless 1500 health chickens, which can be blasted at by him and his team. These chickens are very easy to kill, and the transformation lasts for several seconds, giving his team plenty of time to work with. The explosion also pierces through shields, so tanks like Fernando and Barrack aren't safe. Even with Resilience 3, Pip's team can still get value out of this ultimate with some good coordination and communication, making it a reliable way to dispose of a tank or a nasty flanker. However, Pip isn't without his flaws. Like I said at the start of the video, we're ranking off supports against each other, but in the grand scheme of the meta, they aren't necessarily top tier. Pip as an off support still struggles to go toe-to-toe with the big baddies of the damage and the flank classes. Pip has a very large head hitbox, and while it did get reduced during one of the balance patches from this season, it's still extremely easy to headshot with champions like Androxus, Sati, and Talus. This can make him very vulnerable to pretty much any hit scan champion in the game, but especially the top tier ones. And while his DPS is on par with some flanks while using Catalyst, it's not on par with the meta ones. Still, Pip's self-sustain, damage, and crowd control makes him a useful off-support who ranks well among the other off-supports in the game. And, while I didn't discuss this in the main supports video, he can be a potent main support in the right hands. While there aren't many people who can master his healing playstyle because it is one of the most difficult in the game, it can be a very fun and powerful way to heal. So, while Pip may not be meta in the grand scheme of things, he still ranks high enough to make it onto this list. Number 4. Ying. And this is where off-supports start to get good in the overall meta. Ying is a high skill damage support who boasts some of the most impressive DPS in the support class, while providing decent healing on the side. She can also body block some abilities with her illusions like Dragon Punch, which is some helpful utility. Ying is one of the most aim-intensive champions in the game with her talent Focusing Lens. This is a high skill damage talent that requires perfect aim to get value out of, because if you miss even one shot in her 5-round burst, you don't get the bonus 200 damage. However, if your aim is good, Ying provides some of the best DPS in the support class. Her Illusory Mirror can clock in at exactly 1300 DPS before factoring in damage reduction and falloff, which is on par with many damage champions in the game. While it requires far more effort than other weapons, if you can pull it off, then you are handsomely rewarded. Ying also has a secondary damage ability in the form of her illusions, which is also how she heals and how she uses her movement ability. These lovely clones have a lot packed into them, including explosives. When Ying presses Shatter, her illusions turn into homing missiles that charge after the nearest enemy to blow them up. Their pathing isn't super reliable though, so if you are going to use them for damage, it's best to detonate them when there's basically no way they can miss. Ying players can also get crafty with the card Rewind, which spawns an illusion at the spot of a dead illusion when she teleports to it with Dimensional Link. This can allow Ying to go on what's called a bombing run, where she spawns 2 illusions, blows them up, then teleports to spawn fresh illusions, and detonates them again. This is far more reliable with Resonance, because Resonance makes the illusions explode if they're destroyed by weapon fire. While Resonance isn't the greatest talent, this technique can still be useful with Focusing Lens when performed properly. However, using illusions for damage isn't everything. Sometimes it's better to use them for self-sustain and to body block. By playing around her illusions, Ying can make it hard for single target DPS champions to kill her, because they can block quite a bit of fire. And if Ying gets hit, they can just heal her right back up. And when they're not busy healing her, then they're busy healing allies without Ying having to lift a finger. That doesn't mean you can play Focusing Lens as a solo healer talent though. Stop it, it's not a healing talent. The illusions alone aren't enough to keep a team alive. I don't care how much you think you can spam your ultimate, because your team is dying in the downtime when your ult isn't up. The illusions suck, they're supplementary healing, and that's it, end of discussion. And of course, Ying also needs to make sure she leaves herself an escape plan, so she needs to have at least one illusion in a place where she can teleport away if things get dicey. Balancing using illusions for damage, healing, and mobility is a task that takes some practice, but a skillful Ying player can make it work. And when combined with her incredible DPS, she becomes a serious off-support to be reckoned with. Lastly, we can't forget her ultimate. As a damage Ying, her ultimate is highly spammable, especially when she buys morale boost. Her ultimate is a global heal on every teammate that heals for 600 healing per second. While 600 healing per second isn't a lot, it's still very reliable healing while the ultimate is active, and it's seriously powerful in the early game. It also allows Ying to teleport to any teammate on the map, which can allow for some very interesting plays, such as ulting to get back from spawn in a pinch when the rest of her team is already at the fight, or all of a sudden appearing with Andraxis in the backline to deal damage. Overall, Ying is a very good off-support who plays more like a damage with a little bit of healing on the side. She is extremely skillful, but in the hands of someone who is good, she's an absolute menace. So, Ying earns the number 4 spot on this list. Number 3. Furia. Oh hey, look who it is again! I discussed a lot about why Furia is so good in my main supports video, so I'll try and keep this section brief and also talk more about why she's a great off-support instead. As mentioned before, Furia has some incredible DPS that ramps up when her Wrath bar is full, dealing nearly 1000 DPS with the ability to hit headshots. When combined with her Pyre Strike and Wings of Wrath, she can dump loads of damage into a target better than most other supports can. And of course, her primary off-support talent is Exterminate, which causes the beam to stop moving on the first target it hits and ramp up damage the longer they stay under it. It basically forces the enemies to buy resilience if Furia is consistently hitting them with the beam, but even with resilience, it serves as a great interruption tool and still does a good amount of damage if it connects. And, like I mentioned in the last video, Pyre Strike ignores all cover. So, tanks aren't safe behind their shields, and any champion is at risk of getting hit by it unless they have a way to go ethereal or an ability that makes them immune, such as Ice Block. Although, even Ice Block isn't safe. If Furia uses Exterminate on an Eevee who is using Ice Block, she'll be stunned as soon as she exits the ability. Exterminate is a death sentence for Eevee players, and is still a serious problem if the ability connects even with Resilience 3. Another thing that makes Furia great is that even with Exterminate, she still has a great burst heal. When used as an off support, she can still provide a major boost to her team's survivability alongside the healing her other support pumps out. And of course, her ultimate is one of the best, if not the best ultimates in the game. Furia's ultimate makes everyone around her deal 30% increased damage and move 30% faster, and it reloads all their weapons. Regardless of the team comp, Furia's ultimate can turn the fight in her favor and give her teammates a major leg up towards killing the enemies. As long as her teammates are competent, this ultimate will win the team fight. It's a valuable asset to have, no matter what. I don't want to repeat myself too much though, so if you want to know more about why Furia is just a great support in general, both as a main and off support, then go check out my main supports video, which is linked in the cards and the description. Number 2. Ray. In the number 2 spot we have the off support, who's actually a main support, except she's not a main support? Otherwise known as Ray. Now, Ray is an interesting case. She is extremely good when paired with other supports because of her ultimate generation capabilities, but when used in a double support comp, she often fills the role of the main support, providing reliable healing to her team. Despite this, she's not a great main support on her own unless she's on the map Bazaar, where her healing is bugged and goes through walls. All of this will make sense in a moment after we dive into her kit. Let's talk about Ray's supportive capabilities first. Ray's primary healing ability is her Chain Heal, which bounces a healing projectile between her teammates, healing for 520 health each. It targets teammates based on the percentage of HP missing, which is usually the person who is most in danger of dying. The bounce range is decent, but not great. On maps like Timbermill, Ray can struggle to heal a team effectively, and she also struggles when on a team comp that is spread out. This can make her a rough solo healer, but when paired with another support who can provide a little boost to the team's healing output, she becomes much more dependable. Ray can also use her Spirit Link on a teammate or an enemy, healing them or dealing damage respectively. When linked to a teammate, it provides a mere 50 healing per second, but it also increases the healing of Chain Heal on that teammate by 30%. This is great, but the real bread and butter of this ability is that it also provides 0.5% of ultimate charge to the linked teammate per second. This makes Ray the only support in the game who can increase the ultimate charge of a teammate, but this ability also isn't where it ends. You see, with the card Refreshing Break, Ray can also grant a further 0.85% ultimate charge to each teammate hit by the Chain Heal. And with the talent Focus, the ultimate generation yielded by the Spirit Link is tripled. When Ray has Chronos 3, the Spirit Link has almost 100% uptime with this talent, leading to a major boost to her ultimate generation capabilities. When all of this is combined, Ray can give her team significantly more uptime on their ultimate abilities than a team without her. With how powerful some support ultimates are, you can see why this is so good. When paired with a champion like Ying, Furia, or Grok, Ray can give her team a major advantage in a fight by powering up her other support, and the other support can also make up for the gaps in Ray's healing reliability. Not to mention, Ray has some seriously powerful defensive abilities that provide even further utility. Envelop can be applied to both Ray and her linked target, and it makes it so that any instance of damage she takes is capped at 275, meaning something such as a sniper round from Kinessa gets diminished to just 275 damage. While this ability is absolutely useless at countering rapid-fire weapons like Victor's or Koga's, it is extraordinarily valuable when against high-burst champions like Drogoz, Kinessa, or Buck. And it also provides increased movement speed and jump height, which is great for both her and her linked target. And she can also make her linked target immortal with her ultimate. Vivify grants damage immunity to her linked target for 2 seconds and heals them for 75% of their maximum HP at the end of the ultimate, uncauterized. While Ray doesn't have the ability to resurrect a teammate, she certainly has the ability to completely stop them from dying when they otherwise would have. These two abilities make her one of the most powerful duelists in the support class. And while her Spirit Link is great for supporting her team, it's also great for allowing Ray to go on the offensive. When Ray links an enemy, she deals damage to them and slows them by 10%. The link also provides her an interesting form of free Illuminate, since she can spam it in the direction of an invisible champion to reveal them to her in a cheeky sort of way. And the Link can debuff the enemy she's targeting with the card Midnight Stroll, which can reduce the damage they deal by 20%. This isn't just damage reduction for Rey, but damage reduction for everybody they hit. And of course, the Link is capable of doing triple the damage and triple the slow with the talent Focus, which is also her best damage talent. It doesn't triple the effect of the cards, so she doesn't get 60% damage reduction against her Link target, but the increased damage and slow alone make this talent worth running. Overall, Rey is a fantastic off support for a variety of reasons. When paired with other supports, she can provide consistent healing and a significant amount of ultimate generation, allowing her to give her team a major leg up in the overall course of a game. She has significant damage reduction tools, allowing her to reliably save herself and her teammates from death. And if she wants to pop off and deal damage, she can, since she's one of the best duelists in the support class. This makes Rey a very useful support in double support comps, and so she earns the number 2 spot on this list. Number 1. Grok. In the number 1 spot we have the champion who really needs his own goofy announcer pack, Grok. Grok is a fantastic support who is capable of doing whatever his team needs him to do. While he has a decent enough main healing playstyle with Spirit's Domain, where he really shines is as an off support who helps his team with healing, damage, and rushing the enemies down. There's a lot to discuss with Grok, so let's get started. First of all, let's talk about his damage output. Grok's damage ramps up the longer it connects with the target, rewarding consistent tracking. His DPS actually got nerfed recently, but it's still extremely solid. At its strongest, it's capable of dealing 910 damage per second, which puts it among the best weapons in the support class. While it is somewhat limited by its range, it's still a very powerful weapon. Grok's weapon also has great ammo economy, especially when paired with a few of his ammo cards. He can fire it for 5 seconds without stopping, and even longer with cards or when using Spirit's Domain. It also recharges very quickly if it's not allowed to overheat. Grok can also ramp up his damage even further with his Shock Pulse. Shock Pulse punishes the enemies for grouping up by bouncing between them, dealing 150 damage per bounce. Basically, it's an offensive version of Rey's Chain Heal. With Maelstrom, Shock Pulse can bounce up to 10 times, including the initial hit. Maelstrom also lets him fire Shock Pulses like a madman, because hits with its primary fire reduce the cooldown of the ability. And with the card Thunderstruck at level 2, Grok basically never has to worry about reloading as long as he's hitting Shock Pulses consistently. Next, let's talk about Grok's healing output. At base, his healing output isn't super fantastic. He can deploy 2 healing totems that heal for 270 healing per second each. They can potentially heal the entire team at once if everyone groups up inside of them, but this is often risky because the radius isn't huge. However, the totems are persistent, lasting for 6 seconds or until destroyed. They also have a much greater vertical range than comparable abilities like Maldamba's Gourd or Lilith's Swarm, making them much more flexible in areas with high verticality. These totems can give him some excellent self-sustain, and that's exactly what they're used for when playing Maelstrom. When combined with the Lightning Rod card, Grok has among the best self-sustain in the support class when using Maelstrom. Grok also has another way to gain some ridiculous self-sustain, however. Totemic Ward is Grok's hybrid talent, and is one of the other great reasons why he's such a dominant off-support. Totemic Ward grants him a 3rd charge of totem, and all his totems gain increased healing and range. When all 3 totems are stacked on top of each other, anyone inside the radius heals for 930 healing per second. This gives Grok unparalleled self-sustain, and it also allows him to heal multiple tanks super duper effectively. Unlike Spirit's Domain, Totemic Ward is a healing talent that still allows Grok to deal damage throughout the entire match. While the healing isn't the greatest for mobile or flying champions, it's great for tanks or low mobility targets. But that's why the talent is perfect for being an off support, because it greatly supplements the team's healing while still allowing Grok to dish out tons of damage. He can spread out healing in a huge area, or he can concentrate gobs of healing in one place. And one final bonus I haven't mentioned yet is that Grok can provide up to 30% increased movement speed to players inside of his totems. You know, the bonus that makes up half of what Furia's ultimate provides? Yeah, Grok has almost 100% uptime on that bonus through the power of his totems. Grok can allow his team to reposition or chase down a target much more easily because of this card, which is really, really good. So, Grok has great damage output, great self-sustain, great area healing, and extremely powerful utility with the movement speed bonus he grants. But that's not where it ends, because he also has one of the most useful movement abilities in the support class. Ghost Walk causes Grok to go ethereal for 2 seconds, where he's untouchable by the enemies, but he can still be healed. It also grants Grok 50% increased movement speed, allowing him to quickly reposition. Whenever Grok gets scared of damage, he can press Ghost Walk and run through his totems to quickly heal back up, uncauterized. Ghost Walk allows his self-sustain to scale far better into late game cauterize than that of someone like Grover or Maldamba. All of this is great, but we're still not done. To top it all off, Grok has one of the best ultimates in the support class, second only to Furia's. Grok's ultimate does a little bit of everything. It deals damage, slows enemies, heals him and his team, grants movement speed to his teammates, and grants him crowd control immunity and flight. He can boost up to 3 of his teammates and damage up to 3 of the enemies at once. There is no understating how great this ultimate is. It gives Grok and his team the advantage they need to rush through enemy defenses and burst them down. It also charges incredibly quickly when Grok is played as an off support, since he is doing good healing and damage simultaneously. Grok can also use it to dodge huge crowd control abilities like Convergence and even save his team in the process. Or he can use it to counter invisible champions, since the damage from his ult can target them even without Illuminate. There is not much this ultimate can't do. And of course, if you combine it with Fury's ultimate, pure carnage ensues. If you're against Grok at that point, you might as well just give up. Grok is a support with powerful area healing, damage, self-sustain, survivability, and utility. He's amazing at healing tanks and grouped up team comps, and he's one of the best at supplementing the healing of another main support with Totemic Ward. He's a great duelist due to his high self-sustain, damage, and Ghost Walk, but he also has the best area damage in the support class with Maelstrom. He punishes enemies with deployables and rewards aggressive teams with his movement speed buff. And his ultimate is nothing short of phenomenal, allowing his team to play hyper-aggressive and bust through the enemy's defenses like the FBI breaching your home when they discover your homework folder. Because of all this, Grok is an amazing off-support who earns the #1 spot on this list. But with that being said, that's going to be the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two about the characters we discussed. Do you agree with my placements, or do you think someone else should take the #1 spot? Please let me know in the comment section down below, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this from me. Also, if you want to find players to party up with, consider joining my Discord server linked in the description, and you can also find me streaming on Twitch, which is linked in the same place. Lastly, if you want to support me and this channel, then consider making your next crystal purchase at nexus.gg/AndrewChicken. There, you can buy crystals, the season pass, and more, and support me in the process. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, I will see you all next time, peace out.